Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer. The feature race at Aqueduct on Saturday is the Jazil Stakes, named after a Belmont Stakes winner. There is a Belmont Stakes winner in this year's Jazil, Sir Winston. We'll talk about Sir Winston and the rest of this competitive field in a minute. But first, there's a nice offer from DRF Bets I want to alert you to. Double your first deposit up to $250. Learn more, drf.com/bet. Here's the field for race 8 at Aqueduct. It is the Jazil. We're going 9 furlongs for $100,000. Belmont Stakes winner Sir Winston, the number 2, is at 5-2. Mr. Buff, who loves Aqueduct, who loves a mile and an eighth, he's the morning line favorite at 2-1. We know Mr. Buff has speed. Let's see where Timeform US has Mr. Buff on the pace projector. And they have him up there on the lead along with Stan, the man who showed a rating gear last time out, and the sharp Leotoni up from South Florida.
I mean, all three of these horses, want to be forward in the race. I actually can't disagree with this too much. I don't know that these horses are going to go after each other right from the start, Dan, but here at the pace call, I can see this happening. I can see these horses starting to engage each other as they head up the backstretch in this race.
Let's talk about Mr. Buff. He's won 12 of 34. He's just a remarkable New York bred. When they step him up into graded stakes company, it's a little bit too much, but the last 3 non-graded stakes tries, the last 4, as a matter of fact, he's won very easily, including this race, the Alex M. Rob, where he was odds on and he won like it. He sat off of another horse. He takes over. He is off to the races, and he earns a 100 Buyers speed figure. Now, this is a much weaker field than the one he's facing on Saturday.
It's a tougher spot, but he won this race last year, and he did it very impressively with a 102 Buyer. Listen, you're right. The graded stakes race, they tried him 3 times in graded stakes races last year. He's just not that kind of horse. But he's 8 for his last 9. Other than that, he's 5 for his last 5 over this distance at Aqueduct. He loves this trip. He's going to get up close early in this race, whether he's on the lead or not. He's going to get, I think, the right kind of trip in this race. And he's just really, really hard to knock. Is this a tougher spot for him? I think it is, Dan. But I mean, how do you knock this horse? He shows up and he runs every time.
He's a true racehorse. You can't knock him at all. And what we saw in the Rob and what we saw in the Shipment at Saratoga is that he is not a need the lead type. If Leotoni is intent on going, fine. Mr. Buff will let him go, get to the outside, take up shop where he did last time out. He's going to be a handful on Saturday, and if there's some precipitation, there is some rain in the forecast, he handles a wet track just fine as well. Now Sir Winston's the key to the race. Sir Winston, after winning the Belmont Stakes, so we're going to take a look at it, it was a perfect example of a jockey knowing how to ride a bias. Joel Rosario rode the inside every step of the way. He's just getting out to the 3-path right now, and he's going to grind these horses down. Beat 2 next out winners, and Tacitus, the runner-up, while not a star, came back to do some good things.
Listen, you're right that Rosario had just about everything to do with this win. I think it's at least worth noting that he had run some okay races prior to that. He's one of those deep closers that, things don't always work in his favor. But he had run some okay races on the way into the Belmont. He really took advantage of a great ride from Rosario there. And then he just missed a lot of time after that race. We'll see what we get from him here. He's second off the layoff. He's going to go turf to dirt. He is going to need some hitting up front if he's going to win this race.
He had an ankle issue after the Belmont, which knocked him out for basically the rest of the year. They ran him on very soft turf in the Wood Chopper. You can draw a line through that race, although I'm not sure how much fitness he got out of that race because he didn't pick up his feet at all. And Dave Grenning has reported in the DRF Advance that this horse had a little foot issue after his most recent workout. He'll wear glue-on shoes for the first time on Saturday. So things to consider against Sir Winston, as well as the pace scenario at 5-2.
Yeah, and listen, again, there is a chance that the 3 shortest prices, and there are 3 of the shorter prices in this race sort of go at each other relatively early in this race. That would work to his advantage.
The number 3 is Adventist, and Adventist has been on a roller coaster career. He was 3rd in the Wood Memorial in 2016. He was claimed for $10,000 in 2018, and he just missed last time out in the Queens County, coming from well off of a big solid pace. And that's really the story of Adventist's career. He wants a big pace, and he actually might want a distance a little longer than 9.
I mean, we'll see what happens with him here. He does have a good grade 3 win at 1.5 miles at the end of last year. He ran fine in the Queens County last time, but he really did take advantage in there. They were going up front. The pace was solid, and he made a late run into it. Couldn't get to stand the man, but I liked the finish he put in, Dan. It's just a question of, whether this race really sets up for him. And this is a tougher spot as well, so he's got a lot working against him in here, I think.
Backside of the Moon won this race in 2018, and Bob Placeres took this horse for $100,000. This is an 8-year-old gelding.
Yeah.
They took for $100,000 2 starts back. He ran an okay 4th last time out in the Queens County. He has races that put him in the mix. but something tells me he needs to run a lifetime best. This is a tough edition of the Jazil.
Yeah, he's in tough right here, especially considering the form he's in now. I realized that after Rudy claimed him last summer, he did win a couple of races towards the end of last year. 2 wins in November for this horse, including the $100,000 race that he won that Caceres took him out of. I don't think that he showed in those races, though, that he's at his absolute best. I feel like this is a really tough spot for him. When you go back to the Queens County last time, I mean, if you like him in this race, what excuse do you want to give him for the Queens County? He got a great trip into a solid pace. He had a fair shot at it in the stretch, and he was not good enough.
Let's take a look at the Queens County. It was won by Stan the Man, stretching out from 6.5 to 9 off a 6.5-month layoff. Very confidently ridden up close to that fast pace on the backstretch and into the turn. Now he's going to go after Hans Sense, who's much improved. He's going to go by him, and he's going to hold off Backside of the Moon. He's going to hold off Adventist. This was a promising effort. First start off the 6-month layoff. He has tactical speed like Mr. Buff that should have him close to the pace, and a wet track is no problem.
Yeah, a lot of things to like about this horse. It's just one good race after another for him. They've tried him twice at this distance at Aqueduct. He's won both of those races. He can sit up close to the pace, but he doesn't need the lead. I have no knocks on this horse either, Dan. I'm using him.
Let's talk about the 6 Small Bear. You've always been a big fan of this horse, and he's been good on dirt. He's been good on turf in his career. Unfortunately for Small Bear, he just really didn't get a chance to strut his stuff in 2019. Yeah. He only started once. Once was a very, very promising performance on New Year's Day. Unfortunately, it preceded a 10-month layoff. He came back over a sloppy track, and then last time out off the layoff, that trip didn't exactly work out for him, I didn't think.
I mean, you got to take a little bit of a leap of faith with this horse if you want to bet him, and I'm willing to do that because I do think he's good enough to go with horses like this, and there are excuses to be had for him. I mean, you have to go way back to early in his 3-year-old year to get his dirt form, and he seemed like a horse who was really developing at that time. He ran some really good races. I'm not sure why they decided to make him a turf horse. It's about the better part of a year where they just ran him on nothing but turf, and not that he ran poorly. He's a stakes winner on the grass. He handles it. But I think he's a better dirt horse, and when they came back to dirt at the end of 2018, I mean, what's wrong with his form in any of those races? He got the win over this track at this distance on New Year's Day of 2019, and he just missed a ton of time after that. They came back last time in a pretty tough race. He made a 4-wide move into contention in that race and then flattened out at the end. To me, it was a perfect comeback race. I just think he fits well in here if he can get a trip and if he can run his best race.
Like Adventist, the 7 Leah Tony has had an up and down career. He was a Group 1 winner in Chile in 2018. He was claimed for 12.5 back in June of last year, and he's won his last 4 starts on the dirt pretty impressively for Jason Service. Only one big fig, that was 2 back, but he bounced back off that race to win the Claiming Crown Jewel, and we'll take a look at that race right now. He basically was just too much for these horses, up close to a fast pace, putting them away in the stretch. The 7th place finisher did come back to win with a 90 Beyer speed figure. He's stepping up in class. I think they're going to be very aggressive with him coming out of the gate here. 1 mile and an eighth is not a problem. A wet track could be.
Yeah, he's a tough call for me, Dan. I don't have no problem with the race we're watching now, the Claiming Crown race. I mean, he was supposed to win that race. He did. He was never really threatened in the stretch. It's the race 2 back is the one that really scares me. I don't know where that race came from, and I don't know if he can run it again. But he was super impressive winning that day with a 104. I don't know if he can do it again, Dan, but if he does, he's a handful here.
Completing the field is Roaming Union. He's got a little bit of speed on his best day as well. He really would like a wet track. Yeah. He just moves way up on wet footing. It's his 2nd start of the form cycle. He didn't do much against Stan the Man last time out, but he was going 9 furlongs off a 2.5-month layoff. Personally, I think this is a little bit too tough for him, but maybe he could be part of the pace picture and set things up for some of the closers.
I agree. I'm a little bit of a fan of this horse. I just wonder if he really classes up in this race. He didn't run poorly last time in the Queens County. He did get tired in the stretch, and he was close to the fast pace, but I don't see how things are going to be that much different for him in this spot. I'm a fan of his. I respect the fact that Michelle Nevins, as she claimed him, has been very aggressive with him. She's running him in nothing but really tough races. She must like him. I just think this is a tough spot for him.
Top pick time for Saturday is Jazil at Belmont. You're going with Small Bear. 30 to 1 on the morning line. I'm not sure you're getting 30. You're going to get a big price, however. You've always been a fan of this horse. He has run well at 1 mile and an eighth. Yeah. He's kind of dirtied up.
I think he is dirtied up, and I think he does fit here. Again, he's going to have to show up with his best race, and he's going to have to get a trip. But I think there's a chance that all those things happen. I'm not way against Mr. Buff or Stan the Man. I think they're very logical in here, but listen, I'm not betting either one of them. in that 2 or 3 to 1 range. So I'll take a shot with small bear.
I'm curious to see if Service has completely turned around the fortunes of Leah Toney. He's going to be sent out of there. I wonder if Mr. Buff concedes the lead to him. If he doesn't, I think he can sit a little bit, but I'd rather have him in front.
I would too.
And I think that might be the key if Jose Lezcano has his way. Leah Toney, my top pick, Mike going with small bear. It's the $100,000 Jazil with an approximate post time at Aqueduct on Saturday, 3:55 Eastern. Best of luck.